Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for the demo of AWS SageMaker machine learning capabilities. Um, for the demo, I'll be trying to forecast the climate. Um, so let's dive right into it. We'll start by searching for the S3 service that AWS provides. And we will be creating a bucket inside the S3 service. And this will be a general purpose bucket since I'm just going to be uploading the data in this bucket for our model to access later in the SageMaker. Make sure you're providing the right name to the S3 bucket. And looking at the other default options, it looks like I am gonna stick with the default options. So no changes on that. Oh, looks like it does not like the name. So let's change the name a little bit. And let's try again. Oh, okay, perfect. So we have a bucket with climate city. Now I'm gonna access that bucket and try to upload the data inside that bucket. Perfect. So let's make sure that all the other settings are right. I believe I'm gonna stick with all the defaults. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the standard storage class there. Yeah, no changes on any of the other properties. Destination details. Looks like there are other links on that. Let's upload. Right, looks like the uploading is completed. So let's close and maybe double check to see if the bucket has the object or the data that I just stored. It looks like it has that. Let's move on to the SageMaker now. It looks like this when you first time look at the SageMaker site, it has some useful links that you could look at. I did go through these links. They are really helpful. The introduction video is a suggestion that I would provide you to go for if you're a new person. So let's start by creating a domain inside the studio. Um, I am gonna go with setup for organization and not the quick one. I'm gonna give a domain name, um, probably climate domain if it likes that. There's some how do I want to access the studio. I would probably go through the IAM. So the roles and the activities, I probably go with the default. Looks like they have some pre defaultly selected roles that we could pick out of or create a new one. Um, I'll probably look into the create a new role and just see the defaults that are already clicked here and see if that is gonna be helpful for me. Um, and I do want the S3 bucket to be accessed by the domain, so I'm gonna click that. The application settings here, I'm just gonna go with the default as this is like an optional step. So not gonna make any changes on this step. The studio UI, yeah, I'm gonna leave it as default as well. Moving on to the setup of network settings. For this one, I had to do a little bit of research. If I wanted a virtual private cloud only access or just a public internet access. I went with the public internet access just because I wanted to see how the SageMaker actually works. But you can feel free to work with the VPC. It looks like it's not giving me the next option. So let's see if I'm doing something. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the step where I made some changes. Maybe it doesn't like the role I have picked, so I'm gonna go with an existing role. I had made some earlier versions of the studio, so I know that is the default role that I've picked before, so I'm gonna go with that. So let's see if it works this time. We've got a VPC, the default VPC selected. Oh, maybe it was the subnet that we needed. Okay, and security groups is an optional thing. I'm not gonna do that. This is more of an admin thing. Your organization can always look into that. For storage, I'm not gonna make any changes. I'm gonna leave it as default. So let's review all the settings that we've looked into. Looks like everything aligns well to me. And let's configure the domain. This takes several minutes to get configured, so you might have some time to get some coffee. All right, so the domain is created, and just looking at the settings of the domain, perfect, yeah. All right, so let's start by creating a user on this domain. I'm just gonna name it as data scientist. Oh, let's try again. Okay, perfect. I want that role. Yeah, that is the 232340. That is the one that has worked before for me. There are other links that we can look into to see what that role looks at. I will share that in the description. Keeping all the application and UI settings as default, the data and storage settings as default as well, and reviewing the users. Looks like all is set. Let's double check. Yep, there you go. So we've got the data scientist ready, and let's launch the studio now. All right, we are in the SageMaker studio. You could take a tour there. I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna start right at the Jupyter Lab, create a lab space. You could name it as whatever project you're working on. I'm gonna name it as climate demo. It looks like it doesn't like the character there. All right, I'm gonna share it with my domain so that other developers or data scientists can work in the same space as me. um, and I'm gonna leave the other settings as default, since this is just for the demo. Looks like it configured it. Let's run it. Okay, it's thinking. All right, so our Jupyter Lab's ready. Let's open the lab. As you can see, this is all very seamless. And which is I believe that is what the AWS wanted us to experience as a data scientist. It's really quickly, um, you could start up a studio, run a space, and just start your notebook, which is shareable and is stored online. All right, so our Jupyter notebook is ready. Looks like we've got a lot of options on the left side here. Okay, terminals and kernels. We've got Git, which we could clone our repository to, collaborate with other people. What is that? Oh, table of contents. All right. Oh, data connections or maybe a dictionary there. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, Amazon Q. All right, let's start a notebook. I picked Python 3 kernel, um, and there is the notebook ready for us to code on. I did have the code ready on my local. I'm just gonna be copy pasting most of my code, but I'm gonna walk us through all of that. The first step, I'm just importing some of the necessary libraries that we need. Um, oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, I thought I lost my notebook. Okay, so just importing some of the necessary libraries. Does it not like the SageMaker? Huh, interesting. Let's try again. Let's run it. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. Let's add another cell. So here I'm mainly importing the data that I had uploaded in the S3 earlier. Just importing that into our notebook so I can access that data. All this information is present in the URL that we see on the comment up in that cell. Looks like it got configured, and it ran so without any errors. So that's good. Let's double check. Um, let's see if the null values are present. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so we do have the data and the null values are present, which is going to be an issue for us. in the average temperature. So I am going to be using a method called linear interpolation um, for the null in order to deal with the null values. I'm going to leave a link in the description for you to read more into that. Moving on to the next one, looks like the linear interpolation worked. In this step, I'm gonna be double checking if the null values were taken care of. Um, Looks like they are. So the second column has zero null values. Um, all right, so now we don't have null values. Let's look into the record count of the data by country. Just sorting the data, and looks like we've got a few countries in this data, with India being on the top with the highest amount of records. So I am probably gonna use India as my example here. So just gonna create a data frame with all the values related to India and some of the major cities in India. Um, Looks like that worked. And just performing some of the pre-processing, dropping some of the columns I do not need, and resetting the index by dropping the first index. And looks like our data is ready. So let's start by performing the random forest regression on the data. Looks like the model is built. It was super quick, which is really good. Um, let's look at the RMSE. Oh, RMSE of 7.9 is still pretty good, I would say. Let's visualize on the predictions made by the model. Uh, Looks like the model is predicting the same temperature across, which could be an issue, but that is more of a modeling issue, not a SageMaker issue. I have left a comment right below on how we can update the model and make it better. But it does look like it's really easy to code in SageMaker, very seamless, and you can spin up an S3 bucket on the back end for the data, save your Python file, um, and also share it with your collaborators, which is super cool. There are furthermore testings that one can do in this. Maybe, test on simultaneously with two different users on the same Python notebook or Jupyter notebook, I guess, um, and try that. I did see there are a lot of IDEs, so I just happen to know Jupyter notebooks, so I use that for my example here. But there is RStudio, R as a language to be used with SageMaker, and it's pretty handy. Looks like it's saved. It made another copy after saving, which is very interesting. Um, yeah, and I can make edits to it, which is very interesting. So I can't save these notebooks. Let's close out and go back and maybe refresh and start the Jupyter lab again. The status is running, so that's good. Okay. I really hope I didn't lose my code there, because that could be something really big. Um, let's see. Oh, looks like. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So it is on autosave as well, which is great. As you code, it's saving on the back end, so you don't lose your work, which is a great point for SageMaker. and I highly recommend this tool to a data scientist. And yeah, thank you for watching.